Oh, we're live. What up, everybody? Good morning. Mm. Sunday, March 3rd, 2019. Uh, my background is not decent. Hold on. So here, turn off the light. Push everything away. Okay. Good morning, Robert. Happy Sunday to you too. So I want to bring up this topic uh, to invite you to discuss it with me because I don't have the answer really. But here's the thing. Let me just give you the context of what happened this past weekend. They got everybody, on Twitter like with their hair wild on fire. Um, so let me read off of the playlist.net. Now, this is of course because of the whole hoorah about the movie Roma getting praises and awards and trophies left and right, including Oscars for various categories. I think for best directing and best foreign language film. Um, and Steven Spielberg uh, comes out saying, "Hey, movies that Netflix produce or that Netflix distributes should only compete for the Emmys." Um, and and so now the Academy is going to try to reevaluate what they consider would be worthy, or what kind of movies are worthy of getting Academy Award nomination. Spielberg is heading this battle, if you will. I guess he probably calls it his battle. And he's going to present his concerns at, let me see here, at the Academy Board of Governors meeting scheduled for next month in April. So a spokesperson for Steven Spielberg's Amblin Entertainment said, and I quote, "Steven feels strongly about the difference between the streaming and the theatrical situation. He will be happy if the others will join his campaign. When that comes up at the Academy Board of Governors meeting, he will see what happens." And the Academy confirmed that by saying, and I quote, "Awards rules discussions are ongoing with the branches, and the board will likely consider the topic at that April meeting." So that's what's up right now. Robert says, "Is it too early for Polar Pop?" Yes, too early for Polar Pop. I just woke up. This is West Coast time. So I'm sure all those of you in the East Coast out there already rise and shine. 10 o'clock. Now, okay, let's get back to the topic at hand. Now, when this comes up, right? I think this was like Friday or Thursday night. Um, Immediately, people on Twitter, movie fans, moviegoers on Twitter, like, "Whoa, how dare Steven Spielberg? Like, oh, I love Steven Spielberg, but he breaks my heart by doing this." Like, you know, and my initial reaction was on their camp. My initial reaction was because I always has this thing where I have like a rebellion heart. So if somebody of influence and power kind of tries to box us in or set some certain rules that kind of restrict some certain freedom, and that really gets on my nerve. That really gets under my skin. So my initial reaction was like on their camp. I was like, "Whoa, I love Steven Spielberg, man. He's one of the all-time greats, but I'm not sure if I'm on board his proposal or his concerns here." Um, really, because my reaction was like, this sounds like um, a guy who has had all the success in the world, all of a sudden tries to burn the bridge behind him, and it's like, "Hey, no, 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 you can't do it like that. It has to be," or like some purists, purists like, "Oh, it has to be like this or nothing at all, this or bust." You know what I'm saying? And it also goes to the resentment that people have towards gatekeepers in general. the gatekeepers are people who decide things for you. And that's the problem with also the scandal with Harvey Weinstein and people like him, because they are gatekeepers. So it sucks when like women have to sleep their way to the top of their career, sleep with people like Harvey Weinstein because, hey, he's the gatekeeper, he can make or break my career. So people have resentment towards gatekeepers, and I totally understand that. I don't like the term gatekeepers either. So that goes into that. That feeds into that when this comes up, Thursday night or Friday night, I should say. So my initial reaction was to rebel. My initial reaction was like, "Whoa, come on, Spielberg, be reasonable." You come off as an asshole in this one. So that's my initial reaction. But then after um, reading some of the comments and some of the discussions online about it, now it's back to like, I don't know what the answer anymore. I don't know if rebelling is the answer. Oh, let's get to before I move on, let's get to the chat here. Ryan O'Toole is here. Ryan says, I don't understand this point at all, especially from my favorite director. Movies are movies, and it shouldn't matter where they come from. It's good and deserves Oscar like Roma, so be it. Thank you, Ryan. And Robert says, it doesn't matter where the film comes from. It's not a big deal. Tyler Tyler always cracks me up, man. He must be a Hulu fan. Or Roku fan, says Robert. Ryan goes on, says, it's 2019. I promise you Roma isn't going to be the one and only film to receive Oscar love that is from Netflix. Good point. I agree with you on that. Tyler says, bet he won't try and complain when Disney Plus ends up getting feature nominations. Don't mess with the mouse. That's right. Hey, who has the power? Disney, right? Disney owns like how many companies? Marvel, Lucasfilm. Damn it! I keep telling you guys, the world is divided between Apple, Disney, and Google. Between the three of them, they control all of us. They own the world. So here's the thing. So that was my initial reaction, rebelling. But then after reading some of the comments online from film producers and also my friends who are film critics, I'm beginning to soften up a little bit. And now I'm like, I don't know the answer. That's why I appreciate that you guys chime in and give you your thoughts about it. Because here's the thing. It seems like the problem that Steven Spielberg has is with regards with the window, the theatrical window release. You know what I'm saying? Let me give you this from my email, because I received press release from Netflix. So this is from last year. This says Roma will have an exclusive limited theatrical engagement, right? Theatrical release starting November 21 in Los Angeles, New York, and Mexico. Additional engagement in US cities, Toronto and London, will start in November 29, with other top US markets and international territories continuing to roll out beginning December 5th. And then the film will be released globally on Netflix December 14 with expanded theatrical release. So from November 21 through December 14, that I want to say that's about only 3 weeks window, right? 3 weeks window from theatrical to streaming. And let me give you another example here of Bird Box. Remember Bird Box? Movie. Bird Box, it says here on the email, Bird Box will have an exclusive limited theatrical engagement in LA, New York, San Francisco, and London starting December 13. And then the film will be released globally on Netflix on December 21. And expanded also to other theaters while it is also available on Netflix. So December 13th through December 21, that's only like one week window. That's like freaking fast. um so the arguments out there after reading them, and from my film critics, fellow film critics, and fellow some of the film producers online, saying, "Hey, so what defines movies or cinema that are worth getting Oscar nominated? Because if the movies only get like a 3 window and then it's available on streaming service or Netflix, Um, that shouldn't be fair. That's their argument. Because I looked it up, and initially the rule is that it's supposed to be a 6 month window, right? Usually 6 months duration, and now it has been reduced to just an average of like 4 or 3 weeks, 3 weeks like Roma. And the reason why more and more studio wants to push for their movies to be quickly released on VOD or DVD, um, immediately after the theatrical release, it's because they want to make up for the loss that that they don't make in the theaters. Some of those, many of these movies, not some of these, many of these movies are not. They're not Avengers movies. You know what I'm saying? They're not Wonder Woman. They're not commercial, highly marketed movies. So um, they want to make up for that loss in the theaters by by selling them on VOD or DVD, and in the case of Netflix, by distributing the movie through their streaming service platform to their subscribers. So that argument kind of like, if you see it from the stance of the people who make the movie or the producers, um, I kind of get that. I totally kind of get that. Um, and so I think Steven Spielberg's anti-Netflix stance is not necessarily, him criticizing Alfonso Cuarón or the filmmakers of Bird Box, whatever. It's just maybe he's just trying to say, hey, let's get real here. If a movie is available on streaming service like Netflix, shouldn't that be a TV movie? Shouldn't that be a movie that is awarded at the Emmys because it's released on that platform instead of theaters? But an argument can also be made that uh, movies like Roma or Bird Box, Bird Box probably not a Bird Box is more commercially viable than Roma. Movies like Roma and others like it, like the Oscar-worthy movies, um, they get releases mostly or initially will be in LA, right? LA, New York, London, San Francisco. Um, so movie fans, I would argue that movie fans out in the boonies in Arkansas or Nebraska, sorry to use your states as an example, guys, if you happen to live out there, they don't get to enjoy Oscar worthy or indie Oscar worthy movies like that, right? Um, so something like Netflix or VOD or Amazon or Hulu, that would make it available for them to also enjoy Oscar worthy movies. And that begs the question, like, okay, so has the definition of movies evolved? Because times and society always evolve. So do we need to redefine what movies is and what movies should be considered for the Oscar nomination or award consideration? Um, should all movies be judged equally? Another producer on Twitter said, I made a movie, with my guys, and we try to sell them through festivals, right? Film festivals. That's how you do. You bring it to film festival, and then it didn't get picked up on that one. Okay, let's bring up to the next film festival. Oh, it doesn't get picked up on that one. Let's bring up to the next. And they try to get theatrical releases for their movie, but they did not succeed. It got picked up for Shutter. Shutter is also a streaming service instead. So it's like, okay, so does that mean that our movie is not a movie anymore? It's a TV movie now because of that release instead of theatrical. Have we been reduced to that? So that is also another question as well. Like, what defines movies now? Let alone movies that should get Oscar nomination. Um, have we gotten to the point where, because streaming services like Amazon, Hulu, and Netflix have made it available for general public to enjoy movies, that now we have to see movies through that prism, through that lens. That has to be the definition of movies now. That maybe Steven Spielberg has to also evolve and say, hey, times have changed. You can't be the gatekeeper and telling us what movies are supposed to be anymore, because this is not 1990s or 80s with your Indiana Jones. Who knows? So that is so. Those are some of the those are some of the questions that get brought up, and I don't know the answer to that. I don't think necessarily Steven Spielberg is a bad guy on this matter. I think I totally get where he's coming from, though. Maybe it's like, hey, he feels like the thing that he loves, because he loves filmmaking. uh, The ground is being pulled underneath his feet. I'm sorry, feet, underneath his feet. I was like, whoa, this is the thing that I've been making all my life, and now it's turning into this. And again, my initial reaction is to rebel against Steven Spielberg, because I, not only about the gatekeeper thing, but it's the same concept I have with regards to, like, oh, when old people go like, oh, back in my day, oh, those kids today, oh, how dare they? So it sounds like that. I vow to never become like that kind of old person when I become a senior citizen. so so Steven Spielberg comes off as a gatekeeper in this stance, and also as that old man's like, oh, you got to bring it back to make American cinema great again. so um but I totally can understand also now, having thought about it some more, where he's coming from, and now having read all the comments from film producers and fellow film critics that also chime in on this, and also movie fans and moviegoers that chime in on this on Twitter. Um, these two sides, for or contra Steven Spielberg, those arguments are valid. I just brought it up to you. I just mentioned to you all those questions, and I'm left to, like, okay, so what is the right thing here? Let's get to the chat real quick here. um, Tyler says, but when will Hulu get some Oscar love? Ryan says, yeah, that's a good point. It was released in theaters, but it's a movie, not a TV show. Tyler says, next year the Academy rolls out a new category, streaming Best Picture. Ryan O'Toole, did Ready Player One ever get released on Netflix? Ah, that's a good question. Yeah, that's Steven Spielberg's movie. I would say that it was only released on Blu-ray after the theatrical releases. I don't think it got any Netflix release, but I might be wrong. Correct me if I have it wrong there. You can double check on that. Tyler Calvert says he has a good amount of movies on Netflix, but not Ready Player One. Oh, there you go. Ryan O'Toole says that's kind of ironic if you ask me. and here's the thing too. Tyler brings up another good question. Like, okay, so should the Academy Award make a separate category for movies that are released on streaming services? If our argument is like, hey, movies are movies, man. It doesn't matter where it's produced or released, or distributed. Maybe that's now where movies should be considered Oscar nominated. Who knows? Then should the Academy Award create a separate category, just like the argument like a few years ago when Andy Serkis, people are like, Andy Serkis should get nominated for his performance, his motion capture performance in Rise of the Planet of the Apes or Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Come on, guys, come on, give Andy Serkis some love. But is mocap an actual acting performance? So that begs the question too: should the acting category evolve to include that, or should the Academy Award create a separate category for mocap? But then again, there's not a lot of mocap performances in 1 year of movies, other than just Andy Serkis and probably the guy who plays the the albino gorilla in Rampage. I forgot his name, Jason Lyles, I believe. So that is another question too that Tyler brought up. Like, should the Academy Award create a separate streaming service category for Best Picture? Um, and And let me quote from film producer Rachel Pryor. Rachel Pryor, I think some of the movies under her belt is Baby Driver, is one of them. So she says this on Twitter. It's not about what the movie grosses. It's about the intention and the risk and the consequences and the ambition. I'm not coming down on either side, but going out on TV versus braving it in theaters with a weekend window, it's just not comparable. I say that as a producer during both. I also think that if a movie like Roma cannot get financed for traditional theatrical releases, that is a sad state of affairs. So the question is, has the market redefined what makes a movie based on what we'll now buy a ticket for? Or is cinema, which was defined as a collective experience in a dedicated church, is that cinema, or is that definition of cinema is now dead or dying? Very possibly, in which case TV movies are also movies, and I suspect that is ultimately what what we'll all have to accept. But I respect the pain of visionaries watching the ground beneath them fall. Oh, there you go. Yeah, she said the ground beneath them. uh, so that is also the question too. Like, how when we think about going to the movies, and this is, I love going to the movies, right? I love the theatrical experience. You know, the lights come down, and you with all your friends and a bunch of strangers in this giant box, staring at this giant screen. And when we watch something, and it is part of our criticism when we criticize movies or review movies, one of it is whether or not the movie uh, whether or not the movie feels cinematic, right? I'm sure you've also used that in your reviews, like, oh, the movie could have gone a little further in terms of its cinematography, in terms of its direction, to make it look more cinematic, but it didn't go there. And the movies that are released on Netflix and TV in general, they're not what you would consider cinematic. So again, there's this wrestle now going on between people who are like, hey, movies are movies, man, and the people who are like, no, if you want to get considered for award at the Oscars level, you have to have theatrical releases that are not like 3 weeks window or 1 week window. You got to give it for the theatrical audiences only, or give it a bigger window. Maybe that's the case if Steven Spielberg, in his meeting with the Academy Board of Governors in April, if he agrees to, the Academy is, hey, okay, we hear you. Let's decide on maybe a rule of 2 months window. And Steven Spielberg comes out like, happy, like, yeah, I'm good with that. Then maybe that would be it. Maybe that rule would be the thing that makes people like Steven Spielberg happy and everybody on his side happy. Um, but back to Oscar-worthy releases, though. I remember in the 90s, Harvey Weinstein is one of the biggest campaigners for Oscars. And I think one of his beliefs is that if your movie gets to win an Oscar, you know, even if your movie is like indie, like freaking The English Patient or Shakespeare in Love, once you win an Oscar, that elevates the movie's status, and that translates into box office money for that movie. People will be like, "Oh my god, the movie won an Oscar! I never heard this movie before. It's so indie. I'm gonna go check it out now." You know, um, in that era in the 90s, that strategy did work. And I remember also, like, up till 1999, movies that were nominated for Best Picture, um, no matter if they are indies, right? Only get like LA or New York releases. If they get nominated, they will get nationwide or theatrical, like Regal Cinemas and freaking AMC releases, even if it's just for one weekend or two weekend. But they will get that exposure because they've been nominated. But I don't know if that's the case anymore. And theater owners always look for the movies that they know that can generate them money. So distributing Oscar worthy indie movies like Roma may not be profitable for them. And they'll be like, yeah, Netflix can have that. We don't need to have that in our place. Maybe theater owners go like that too. So times have changed. Prior to 2005, when Facebook, MySpace, social basically that blows up, and streaming services start to like flood our market. Um, and yeah, so those are I want to bring up all those points to you because again, I don't have the answer. My initial answer was like to go against Steven Spielberg, but now having read all the comments and the perspectives from the film producers and moviegoers and theater owners, that also chime in, and movie fans and also fellow film critics, now it's like, okay, so all these questions, all these valid arguments are brought to the table. And let me end with this. I will I would love to be the fly in that room when Steven Spielberg has that meeting with the Academy Board of Governors. That meeting, I would love to be the fly on that wall. Hell, I think that meeting should be televised, like the Michael Cohen hearing. We should all get to watch it because it'll be interesting what their discussion is. Or maybe the Academy Board of Governors will be like, they would just like immediately grovel to Steven Spielberg because, oh my God, Steven Spielberg, whatever Steven says goes, because he's one of all-time greats. Or maybe there'll be some pushback, um, among them in that discussion, and it'll be a uh, good conversation to watch. I would love to watch that. Oh, sorry, I just hit my table. I hear. So what do you guys think? What is your stance on this? Let me get to the chat before I end this live stream here. uh, Tyler Calvert, maybe he thinks his next Indiana Jones movie, where Harrison Ford is 100 years old, is going to sweep the Oscars if Netflix isn't around as competition. uh, maybe. I'm not looking forward to Indiana Jones 5, guys. I'm really not. I mean, I'm a big fan of Indiana Jones movies, but by golly, you can call me an ageist, whatever, right? But the thing is, Indiana Jones demands a lot of physical stuff, right? He got to run from the locals or the natives. And I just can't see 78 years old, I think. I forgot how old Harrison Ford is. I can't see him selling us that anymore. I'm sorry. You can call me a terrible person for that. Ryan O'Toole says he should have been nominated for all three performances in the Apes film. With regards to Andy Serkis, it's acting at the end of the day. So there you go. So Ryan is on the camp of like, hey, acting is acting, man. Whether it be mocap or not. So maybe mocap acting or mocap performance should be included in the acting category. It should not be a separate category. Tyler says, plus, it's not like most Netflix movies are that good. That's true. That is true. You and I have seen a lot of Netflix movies that are just like, oh. The last one that was like, oh, was that Numi Rapash movie, Close? Oh, that was terrible. Tyler Calvin Scorsese is going to fight Spielberg if they won't let The Irishman get nominated. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up, because The Irishman is the big movie that it's the Roma of this year. The Irishman is the big movie that Netflix will hope will get nominated, just like Roma did. And it comes out in the fall season, of course, for award consideration. And what I read about it is that it's gonna get theatrical window, and then it'll get released globally on Netflix. I'm looking forward to it because it reunites all the big guys: Scorsese, De Niro, Al Pacino. My goodness, it's like a Goodfellas reunion. Joe Pesci. Uh, so yeah, I would love to also hear. Thank you for bringing that up, Tyler. It'll be interesting to hear Martin Scorsese chiming in on this. He hasn't yet. He hasn't chimed in on Steven Spielberg's anti-Netflix stance. But it'll be interesting to hear what he says. I hope he speaks up. The other filmmaker that speaks up about this is Ava DuVernay, who, if I'm not mistaken, is not on the side of Steven Spielberg on this matter. So Ava DuVernay is one of on the camp of like, hey, movies are movies, man. So Scorsese hasn't spoken about this yet. Pat Blast says cinema is dying. We can already watch them online a week after release for free. That's true, either through streaming services or in other cases through bootleg. Trey Devon says Spielberg's point is stupid. Most Oscar winning movies don't make any money at the box office. See, again, goes to my point earlier. That's why a lot of distributors and studios would release or immediately release their movies on VOD, video on demand, or streaming services like Amazon, Hulu, or Netflix, because to make up for the loss, to make up for the box office loss at the theater release, because they don't make that much money in the theatrical releases. Like, for example, last year, Phantom Thread, like, who watches Phantom Thread? I mean, like, I watch Phantom Thread. I love Daniel Day-Lewis, but it's not like it's not like the movie got a lot of eyeballs. Um, so Platt Bell says the resurrection of Han Solo. Trey Devon says how long a movie is in theaters should how long a movie is in theaters should be irrelevant. Oscar movies don't make money anyway. Again, so Trey Devon is reemphasizing his earlier point. Tyler says Indiana Jones is gonna need to eat a lot of Activia to get through Indiana Jones 5 when Ford will be 79 years old. There you go. There you go. Now, Tyler, if Indiana Jones is a movie that doesn't require physically demanding scenes, right? If Indiana Jones is a freaking drama, then hell yeah, Harrison Ford can come back and play Indiana Jones. But to picture him running and bullwhipping like in Indiana Jones 4 when he like bullwhip his way onto a moving Jeep. Remember that? He goes onto the Jeep and then he beats up the Soviet soldiers. I'm not buying that anymore. No matter, even though in cinema you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit. Dude, quit trying to find credibility in Spielberg's stance. It has none. Okay, fair enough point, Trey. Rhino Tool says, I own Phantom Thread and I still haven't seen it yet. There you go. See the appeal of that movie. Come on. Tyler says Ava DuVernay has a lot of nerve after making A Wrinkle in Time. That's also a valid point. Like, of all the filmmakers that can speak up against Steven Spielberg on this matter, it's like, really, Ava? You just made Wrinkle in Time, and that movie stank. Now, maybe she does have a position to argue Steven Spielberg on that, though, Tyler, because of that very reason, because Wrinkle in Time did not make much money at the box office as it expected, and it was not critically acclaimed. It was not well received. So Disney has to make up for that loss with the Blu-ray releases or the upcoming Disney Plus when they make Wrinkle in Time available on their streaming service. So maybe she does have a position to like, hey, not fair, Spielberg. Movies are movies, wink, wink. My movie did not, do well or was not successful. Yeah, those are the arguments. I'm bringing up all the topic for you guys here. We would have hated A Wrinkle in Time if it hit streaming service too. That's true. It doesn't matter what the releases is, or what the platform is. That movie still stank. So thank you so much, you guys, for chiming in. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you couldn't get to um, give your thoughts in the chat section. What side are you on? St- are you on the side of, hey, movies are movies? Time and society have evolved. So should the definition of movies. Therefore, movies, any platform should also get considered for Academy Awards. Or are you on the side of Spielberg? It says like, hey, movies that are released in streaming service or only have like 1 week window or 3 weeks window, that should be considered TV movies. Therefore, it should be thrown into the Emmy category or Emmys awards instead of the Academy Awards. I think I think that's the argument now. The two camps um, that are on this matter. So, what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts. I don't know the answer to this. Um, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that meeting in April next month, because that will be the live stream. Again, share your thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe to this channel. Press that like button, ring that bell, and if you can help support my channel, please do so at patreon.com/ramascreen. Patreon.com/ramascreen. Let's rock this.